you know what, enough is enough. I'm not doing this anymore. I can see this for what it is. I can see the cycles that have been repeating. I can see myself within them. And now I'm ready to make that change. And this is it. This is time. It is time to make that change. It's time to move in that new direction based on everything that we've been learning. Hello my beautiful friends, welcome. Anna, Alchemist of the Arts here, and this is my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a message for this full moon, which is occurring on the 24th of February 2024. More importantly, the message that's coming through, I've been bugged by my guides to do this reading all day and they haven't let up. So the message is, it's time. And you're probably feeling like it's time. It's time to make those moves, time to do those things that you've been waiting to do. And whilst that message is coming through with a sense of urgency, like it's time, you might not be physically taking action right now. What we're in is this amazing transformational phase of humanity, of our lives, and that is not without its challenges, it's not without its difficulties, it's not without its suffering and, you know, transformation of all kinds. However, as we're seeing more of life as it is, as more of us are seeing life with our own authentic truth, understanding the world around us, understanding who we are, understanding who we want to be, we're given the opportunity to adjust. Nothing is set in stone. We are being given the opportunity right now to make those corrections, to make those adjustments, and to make those moves that are going to shift us in a brand new direction, or to reaffirm to ourselves the things that we're doing that we love, the things that feel aligned for us, that feel like our sense of purpose, that deep sense of purpose. And for others, you might be feeling that call within that is going, it just doesn't let up. That call within that goes, I'm here, there's something else, there's something more. Are you going to listen? Are you going to answer this? And again, those calls can come through in the most curious of ways. It can be the most absolute frustration with our current life circumstances. It can be hitting rock bottom. It can be reaching breaking point. And at one of those points, through one of those circumstances, we go, do you know what? Enough is enough. I'm not doing this anymore. I can see this for what it is. I can see the cycles that have been repeating. I can see myself within them. And now I'm ready to make that change. And this is it. This is time. It is time to make that change. It's time to move in that new direction based on everything that we've been learning. And the way that I'm seeing this, although this moon in itself might not be anything spectacular, it is one of those markers in time. We get, we have a full moon every 4 weeks or so. Each one of those is an opportunity for release. That's what most people associate the full moon with. And I really feel like with this one, even though I actually read somewhere it's going to be a micro moon rather than a super moon where the moon is much closer to the earth because of its position and it seems so much larger. This is going to be a micro moon apparently. So this is actually going to appear smaller and further away from the earth. Now, what I'm really getting is that this is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to really take stock of where we are. And I feel like many of us will be having messages through our dreams, through our daydreams, just those subconscious wanderings of the mind where we get lost in thought, where we're ruminating, where something from the past comes up and all of those emotions are flooding to the surface. And we have a deep experience with ourselves, or just find ourselves lost, like I said, in a daydream, or in a daydream for a minute. Something in those moments is going to be revealed. You could have been having these experiences leading up to this full moon, and you could certainly be having them afterwards. But this is one of those catalyst points, it feels, where those messages, those thoughts, feelings, emotions, whatever's coming to the surface, they're a very big clue as to what it is that you're ready to let go of, what you're ready to change, who you're ready to stop being in order to become the version of yourself that you want to be. You know, if you were that version right now, what would you be doing? What action would you be taking? Would you be showing up in a different way completely? And I think it's really important that we see both the because I am getting a lot of that kind of a sense of duality and polarity. And the polarity of this situation is through our deepest frustrations, through our deepest traumas and pains. Many of us have grown, we've been triggered and forced to heal. And this is a bridgeway point, this is the tipping point, the middle point of that polarized experience, where we recognize everything that it's taught us, and we realize how that has become this unique set of skills or abilities or wisdom that we then can use in a positive sense moving forwards. We can now use that to help others, or to set up a new business, or to create a new offering, or to change the way we move in the world, or to change our role within society, or within our community, or within our family groups. Everything that led us to this point is a key. And we're literally stood, because I kept getting these sort of like doorway kind of energies. And, you know, there is always a slight caveat with these things, take this or leave this, to be mindful of the doors in which we open and the ones in which we're willing to walk through. Sometimes we do go on necessary wanderings, and we walk through a path or through a doorway for a while that we later find out it could have been something that we thought we really, really wanted. And this is another point I think many of us are at. We could have been really investing a lot of time and energy into something, and have walked through that doorway quite a ways, only to go, do you know what? I don't think this is for me anymore. And this is it. This is that shifting point. This is that change. And it's most likely because there feels like a deeper calling upon you, or just that necessary shift. You have grown, you've evolved, and therefore your dreams and hopes and vision for the future have likely evolved too. So new doorways are opening, but it feels like there's multiple doorways, and each of those can be a glimmer into the future, a glimmer into alternate realities, for want of a better word, different realms, different states of being, different potentials. Which one are you going to choose? And this is where we have to start really claiming back our power from certain places, from certain things that have drained us. The other thing that felt really important tying into that was recognizing just how much the world has changed so rapidly in a very short period of time, and how that is going to accelerate. Now, you might be conscious of those changes, and for me, there's been a lot of reassessing of relationships with certain habits, with certain activities, with social media, with my business, with my work. All of these things, everything that we have a personal relationship with, that relationship to self, but all of the multiple different aspects of it. What feeds into that? Who are we really? Who do we want to be really? Are the things that we're doing sustaining, nurturing, supporting this vision of who we want to be and the things that we want to do? Because if they're not, then this is that cue, this is that point at which, and like I said at the very beginning, you might not feel at this moment like you're ready to make those changes, but the tipping point of change is when you have that moment of awareness. And awareness is just another starting point. What we do with that awareness, how we put that energy into action, again, balance of masculine and feminine energies, you receive that awareness, you have that foresight, you have a vision, a message, whatever it is, a dream. Dreams are coming up big time for a lot of people. It's then what you do with it, embodying that within yourself, taking that awareness and saying, okay, how do I create this as my reality? Now, the first step is actually just accepting, okay, that is the vision of me I want to be. That is the person that I want to be. So then you have to make changes. You have to accept that there are parts of you, perhaps, or actions, habits, things that we no longer wish to be. I mentioned that I have, been reassessing my relationship with so many things within my life. And social media has been a massive one for me. I think for most of the creatives and small business owners I know, you can't get away from the sense of disaffection, disenamorment with what is going on over on Instagram. And it's not just Instagram, because I'm seeing this pattern now repeating with other social media platforms. So the way in which I use social media over the last 18 months has changed quite a lot. I had to change a lot of the content I was creating, both the format, because Instagram did away with IGTV and I could no longer share long form video on that platform. I used to share all of my little pick a card readings and these kinds of videos on that platform, and it amalgamated all of my spiritual experiences and the things that I had to share and my art in one place. And that worked for me. I absolutely loved it. It wasn't about likes, it was just about me sharing all of those different things that I wanted to share, and it was fun. And then we had all the issues with scammers and impersonators, and everything changed. For me, it became very, very stressful and very, very difficult trying to deal with those situations, with the consistent theft of my intellectual property and you know, people ringing me and saying you're doing this, and I'm like, it's not me. And as those situations have sort of gradually been resolved, the platforms have changed. They've obviously, you know, I now have to pay for verification to prevent those sorts of things, but I do that willingly to provide a level of support for the people that actually follow me on my platform, so you know that it's me. But it also, there's other features, but more importantly, it's changed my relationship with social media. And through all of these challenges and difficulties, I really had to release how much I personally invested or took from my social media. And the reason I say this is because you can see the great changes going on already, and you can hear people talking about it, and we can see the role that AI is already playing. And whilst that might not be all entirely a negative thing, it means the world is changing very quickly, and we don't necessarily know how that is going to change as rapidly as it is. We can't logically predict the exact outcome of where we are right now, and I know that's life, right? But what we can predict is that we will adapt to our circumstances, adapt to those inner calls that we get, the messages that we receive when we feel triggered to move in a new way. So I'm at one of those tipping points personally again, where I feel very called to move in some new directions, but that feels really positive for me. And again, it's because of the call. It's because of the call of that frustration, my own inner frustrations. And it doesn't mean that I intend to show up any differently. It just means that some of my focus is going to have to go on new and different things, because we are all multifaceted, multidimensional beings, and being able to express and experience ourselves in our authentic fullness means moving in different directions sometimes. So for many of us, it could be feeling like a complete 180, or maybe a 90-degree turn, or maybe a splitting of pathways, an opening of new doors, a closing of others, a releasing of certain burdens, a taking back of self from some of these distractions, from some of the things that have been consuming us in some ways, or distracting us, or making us feel that sense of obligation to them, when actually we're obligated to fulfilling our highest sense of purpose, of being the highest expression of ourselves, not just for ourselves but for all around us, and actually for the benefit of humanity in itself. That's my personal perspective, that's my personal take on it. It's not that we become the greatest person to lord over anyone else. It's becoming that greatest version of ourselves, because everyone around us will then get to experience that greatest version of ourselves. And having been a parent for quite a long time now, one of the biggest things that I've learned is it doesn't matter what you say, it matters what you do, because there is always somebody watching, and it's modeling certain behaviors, not just for children but for everybody. As we learn, as we grow and evolve collectively, we put the awareness into action. We allow it to change certain behaviors, so we move differently in the world. And as we do that, other people will observe that, and even on a very subconscious level, it might give them a freedom to do the same. And it might be that nobody's ever said to them before, you can do this thing, you can do that. If you believe in yourself, or if you follow this, or you don't have to do that just because they want you to do that. Whatever it is, you know, I'm picking at words here. Sometimes people will see you and the things that you're doing, and that will give them a freedom and an ability to move forwards themselves. And that's how we inspire one another. And I think as well, this is just going to be one of those times, like I said, where we're redefining those relationships. And it might be that certain relationships have run their course for us, but also to be very aware of those that we invite in, those that we share our time, our space with, those that we connect with, those that we listen to and take advice from, because there's many incredible people out there, and for a majority are very, very well-meaning, but you might not resonate with all of those messages, and sometimes it's not the right time to hear a certain thing, and it totally grates against your being. And a year later, somewhere further down the way, or sometimes it's been years later for me, sometimes something suddenly makes sense, and then you're in a different place in life, and it's like, oh, I totally get this now, I'm ready to hear that. So I don't know who that was for, I don't know if it resonates with you, but take what you will from it. I hope it assists you. I felt like using my Viking Oracle deck today just to get some messages, just to tune into the collective and see what we can bring through. What do we need to know? How best can we work with these energies? We got 3. Bottom of the deck, first of all, answers, of course. That is definitely receiving, tuning into our spiritual selves and assimilating that wisdom and everything that it has to offer us, everything that it wants to share with us. I mentioned briefly in my previous video that I would be observing Disablot on the 24th on the full moon, which honors our female ancestors. And when you think back, something that I really love is this thought that I can think of traits that I've picked up from my mother. Going back to my previous message about people observe, people will do as you do, not as you say, you know, that old thing. It's the opposite to that thing that people say when they say, do as I say, but not as I do. It doesn't matter. People will do what you do and not what you say. They will just follow your example 90% of the time. I think about my mother and my grandmothers and my father's mother in particular, who I had a very close relationship with. I think about the things that they taught me, the ways in which they did things, whether it was from cooking to preparing things in certain ways to folding towels, all of these ridiculous things, right? But you observe them and they're traits that you carry with you. And for some of those things that are less specific, the ways in which they speak, the ways in which they nurture, the ways in which we then learn to nurture, we don't know how far back that goes, you know? And this is one of those, you know, beautiful times to think about the lessons that we've received, the love that we've received from the women in our life, from the mothers, from the grandmothers, to time immemorial. All those that connect us, and for some that can be very, very challenging. You could have had very, very challenging relationships, but then there is the wider sense of mother and our connection to the earth and to creation in itself. And I think being able to tune in and honor all of that for everything it's taught us, and for the fact that we're here, and for the lessons and the benefit it's brought us, I think is very, very important. And answers just connects me personally. I know it's on the bottom of the deck. Just brings in that sense of receiving wisdom, of really tuning into that spiritual self, connecting with our ancestors, connecting with our higher sense of wisdom and the messages that come through. Now we also had the Sunstone, and this is a card of clarity. This asks for clarity. It seeks clarity even through the stormiest of skies. For those of you that don't know, clear calcite or Iceland spar is believed to have been a stone that our ancient Viking seafaring ancestors that went to Viking, as that's where the origins of that word come from, if they were stuck at sea and they couldn't navigate because of the clouds and they couldn't see the sun, if they held up this very special clear stone to the sky, it's a calcite, it's a form of crystal. If you held it up to the sky, you'd be able to see the sun. You'd be able to find the sun even through the clouds, and then you would be able to navigate. So there is this sense of finding clarity even through life's storms. A way will be shown, a way will become visible, and steer towards the light is what I'm getting. And that isn't just light as in the, you know, the love and light sense of light. Steer towards your inner light, that pilot light, that guiding light, that star, that North Star energy that is calling to you, that is guiding you. Where are you being called? You know, that pathway will be revealed in the most succinct of ways sometimes. It can be something that just nudges you, or you know, with a message, a repeated message that's like, listen to me, what about this thing, what about this thing? Or a frustration of, I really can't stand doing this thing anymore, I really want to do this other thing, and then you're called in that direction. So there can be so many different ways that we can access that. Bear with me a second, I'm just gonna, sorry guys, just needed to sort the lighting for a second. So there's so many different ways that we can access that sense of guiding light, of being enlightened, literally bringing light to a situation. But I'm really getting that strong sense of the pathway is going to be revealed to us. That sun, that calling of the sun is going to be revealed even through the darkest of clouds. So take note of the messages, the synchronicities, the callings, the person that reaches out to you, the repeated advert on whatever it is that you listen to or watch. It's those sorts of things that are going to give you that nudge that will reveal to you what you're doing. We have Bacano, I also call this Bjarken, which is a beautiful motherly energy, again connected deeply to femininity, to growth, to motherhood, to birth, to childbearing, to nurturing. This and the birch tree. So this feels very, very much like a time of deep personal growth, of connecting with what nurtures us, what has nurtured us, the lessons that we can take from that, and also what it is that we need to feel nurtured. How do we nurture others? All of these things are pieces of the puzzle. And you know, my mum very wisely said to me, you know, this week, and it's always beautiful to have these messages from other people, these confirmations, especially my lovely mum. And she said, you know, you have to be what it is that you want to experience. Give it in abundance and you'll receive it back. And, you know, if you give positive energy outwards, if you give compassion, if you give understanding, most often you receive that back. And of course, that always comes with a warning, because if you give that too much of that without boundaries, then we can find ourselves in difficult situations, or in situations with difficult people. But it truly is that if you feel that sense of lack of something, how can you nurture that within yourself? Because that energetic shift will actually allow you to come into alignment with what it is that you want to experience. So say for example, you want to make a certain lifestyle change. You have a vision of who it is you want to be, who you want to become, who you want to grow into. And that requires and involves making some changes. In order to do that, you physically need to start making some of those changes and visualizing becoming that person. So for you specifically, if you were that person now, what would your day look like? How would you live? And of course, not all of us can make all of those changes at once, but this is this catalyst point. There will be things that you can do. There are mindset shifts. I nearly said a really strange combination of words then. We can have mindset shifts which allow us to visualize more of being that person, and that enables us to become that person in a more streamlined way. But again, these things are a process, so don't get frustrated. Growth is a process. Gestation of anything, of a dream, of a baby, of a project, this whether that's, you know, like achieving your dream body or building a business, changing your career, these things do not happen overnight. So there is, again, I said this a couple of weeks ago in one of my videos, There's a process here, and the process is important. We're initiating a process now, or deciding we're going to initiate a process, and actually moving towards what it is that we want might be an initiation of several processes, and a process that leads onto a process that leads onto another process. All of it is a bigger process, and that process is growth. I hope that makes sense. And finally, Yggdrasil. And now Yggdrasil is beautiful. It connects to all of the realms. It is the center of the cosmos, of Nordic cosmology, and it holds all of the 9 realms within it. It also loads of different creatures, a wonderful sweary little squirrel called Rathatosk, all kinds of things. Everything happens on Yggdrasil, which basically says to me, in respect of this reading and the message that's coming through, if everything exists right in front of you right now, everything is possible, what would you do? It's that bigger vision, blue sky mindset. And I know some people will absolutely balk at that, or they'll say, oh, it's new age bullshit, whatever. Some people won't like that, but in order to visualize a solution, you have to get out of the frequency of the problem. You have to get out of the frequency of being the opposition, to get out of the conflict. And sometimes to do that, we need to completely shift our mental energy, our thought space, our mindset, our physical frequency above where it is that we've been dwelling, above the level of the problem. Not because we're better than it, but because that's where the solutions are found. And just for a moment, that means stepping out of conflict, not seeing it as an enemy that you have to vanquish. Do you have to vanquish this enemy? Often the enemy is within us, this thing that we are so opposed to, not in all circumstances, but often we can find an aspect of that within. And in order to shift and make progress, we find a new way of approaching the problem by allowing ourselves to rise above it. I probably haven't explained this very well. That's probably a whole video in itself. But just for a moment, give yourself the freedom to have that big blue sky mind. Think of your life, specifically your situation, with 0 obstacles. If you could do anything, no limitations, no restrictions, unlimited resources of every single kind, what would you do? And then ask yourself, can I work towards this right now? How? It's not even a can. Of course you can. How? How do I work towards this right now? How do I become this? Because this stuff is possible. You know, I stand here, and I know I said about my relationship with social media earlier, it's given me the ability to build a business and to work freely and to take care of my children as a single parent. And that is not something I take for granted, and social media will always have a role in my life, but my identification with it is what needed to shift. And the point of me bringing that up again in relation to the Yggdrasil card was, if you can do anything, if you believe you can do anything, if you want to have experienced that bigger vision of the future, there are parts of us that we do have to let go. There are parts of us we have to let go of. There are parts of us we have to be willing to say, okay, I'm not going to do that thing anymore. I literally cannot be this person anymore, because that, as much as I love that person, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's loud. As much as I love that person for bringing me to this place right now, I honor that person, that version of myself. I respect this version of myself, but I recognize that that version of myself also has limitations that I have now outgrown. Now has a skin I'm ready to shed, ready to move forwards, ready to grow, ready to evolve, and ready to step into this new vision. And with that will come another shedding, another cycle. It goes on, it repeats, and at any point you can choose to stop. Many people do, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. But if you're here and you're watching this and you're feeling that sense of frustration, that call to wanting to grow and to shift into a new vision, whether that's for you as an individual or for your family, for your community, for humanity, We all play a part in that. We all have a role within that. We can't just sit back and think, well, other people will do that. I have no power. You do have power. And the power comes from shifting self, from growing the self, but not in a self-serving way, in order to be of greater benefit through everything we've learned and everything we've gained to our entire community, to the collective, to humanity, whatever word you want to use to describe it. And I think as well, the final message that I'm just going to touch on, just to close this, because it's been quite long, sorry, is just to honour all of those visions and versions of self that we have been. Think about how many times you have changed. Think about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, further back than that if you can. Think about the habits you had. Think about all of the things that you did. Think about the things that you've achieved, the ways in which you've moved, things that have become easy or normal now that once felt impossible. You can do this. We can do hard things. This change happens over time, and it's so succinct sometimes. We don't see it happening. It's like watching children grow. You don't see it, and then somebody that hasn't seen them for 2 years goes, oh my gosh, look at the change. We're no different. It's just that change is within, and it changes the way in which we move within the world. And as always, there will be people that find that makes them uncomfortable, and those people then might not be able to come along with you. They might come alongside you at another point further down the line. They have their own processes, and that's okay too. So it's having compassion for other people, having compassion for self, having compassion, love and respect for every version of ourselves that has brought us to this place, and recognizing that we are at that catalyst point right now, the point of absolute polarity, that midway point where everything that we've done, everything we've achieved, everything that we've been through and overcome is leading us with those keys and how to help or to change or to grow or to shift, either for ourselves or for others around us, for our communities and the wider sense of humanity. So I'll leave this here for you. I hope it assisted you. I hope it assists and meets whoever needs to listen to it. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. I'm beyond it. I'm just here to share these messages, and I absolutely love doing it. So sending you all my love, wishing you a very happy full moon, and I will see you again really, really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.